At Saqqara, the desert does not surrender its history gently. It withholds it, burying it under an unyielding sun. For more than 4,000 years, this immense limestone plateau has served as a silent sentinel, absorbing dynasties, rituals, and ambitions, stacking them. So when archaeologists finally breached a seal 4,400 years old, they were not stepping into a ruin. They were entering a system, an engine that was never meant to stop working. The very entrance sets the tone. Cut with unnerving precision into the living rock, it leads not to the chaos of collapse, but to a world of absolute order. Walls rise true and straight. Intricate reliefs align with a clear and unwavering intention. The air itself feels held, preserved, as if the tomb has been waiting, not decaying. This is not the aftermath of time. It is the enduring result of meticulous design. The first chambers unfold a visual language of immediate and startling precision. A living ledger carved in stone covers every surface. It is a dense and deliberate tapestry of function: agriculture, animal husbandry, river transport, craftsmanship, and the all-important act of record-keeping. Boats, laden with goods, glide along incised rivers. Processions of workers carry supplies inward, their purpose clear. And, standing apart, the scribes, their reed pens poised, documenting every movement, every delivery. Nothing here suggests leisure or ornament for its own sake. These scenes are operational diagrams, a blueprint for an eternal estate, documenting how a life of authority functioned and how its resources were managed into perpetuity. This tomb dates to the late 5th dynasty, a pivotal moment in the sprawling saga of ancient Egypt. The colossal pyramids of Giza were already centuries old, monuments to a different kind of power. Here, authority was no longer expressed solely through sheer scale, but through the sophisticated machinery of administration. Titles mattered. Oversight mattered. The bureaucracy of the state was paramount. The man interred within these walls was not a king, and yet his tomb rivals royal complexes in its complexity. That single detail reframes everything we see. Then, the statues appear. Carved from limestone and seated in niches along the corridors, they stand at near life-size, their gazes calm and alert. Their posture is formal, yet unburdened by rigidity. Their expressions composed, but not coldly idealized. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, these were not mere portraits. They were functional vessels capable of receiving offerings, of housing the spirit should the mummified body fail. They were anchors for existence. The sheer number of them is not an act of vanity. It is a profound strategy of redundancy, an engineering of immortality. If one statue were to fail, another would remain. If one chamber collapsed, another could serve its purpose. Continuity was the ultimate objective. But the tomb does not end where rock. Some descend for several meters before plunging into absolute darkness. Others branch into unseen galleries. Some were sealed with ancient mortar, others left tantalizingly open. These shafts were not an afterthought. They were integral to the tomb's design, a final layer of separation and security. In the architecture of the Old Kingdom, such shafts serve as barriers, as filters, and as guardians of access. They slow movement. They delineate the mundane from the sacred. They complicate any intrusion, mortal or otherwise. They are the final locks on a machine built to run forever, a self-sustaining universe of order, designed not to be remembered, but simply to endure. In the ancient necropolis of Saqqara, the earth is riddled with vertical arteries, shafts driven deep into the bedrock. Each one represents a staggering investment of labor and cost, an immense expenditure of human effort invested for a singular, all-consuming purpose: control. Control is the invisible thread that binds everything here. Upon these walls, the familiar reliefs of Egyptian tombs take on a different character. There are no chaotic scenes of battle, no glorious triumphs over foreign enemies. Instead, there is the quiet, relentless hum of endless productivity. Processions of servants, their faces serene and their muscles taut, carry offerings without interruption. Herds of livestock are tallied for eternity. Granaries overflow in perpetuity. The flow of goods is a one-way current, always inward, never outward, feeding a self-sustaining estate that transcends death itself. Here, order is eternal. Even the finality of the grave does not disrupt the system. This is not a tomb born from a fear of judgment, nor a dread of monsters lurking beyond the veil of life. It is a monument to absolute confidence, the unshakable confidence of an individual who believed the world, a world that had served him so perfectly in life, would simply continue, unchanged, after his death. When viewed in its totality, that confidence becomes profoundly unsettling. The tomb functions not as a place of rest, but as a perfect model state, sealed for eternity beneath the sand. Here, labor is depicted, but it never concludes. Authority is absolute and never questioned. Resources are perpetually abundant, constantly replenished by an unseen cosmic source. The deceased is not positioned as a humble supplicant praying to the gods, but as a permanent administrator, a high-ranking official within a vast and intricate cosmic bureaucracy. The hidden shafts reinforce this message of meticulous management. Some plunge towards the true burial chambers, the final heart of the complex. Others lead to intricate networks of storage spaces, catalogued and ordered for an afterlife of plenty. And others still may be symbolic dead ends, masterful decoys designed to confuse and protect the sanctity of the core system. Several remain entirely unexplored, their mouths dark with mystery. At Saqqara, an unopened shaft is never assumed to be empty. It is a postponed revelation, a question waiting for an answer. Modern archaeology must therefore approach this environment with the caution of a surgeon. Before a single grain of dust is brushed away, the ghostly dance of laser light meticulously documents every inscription, every subtle chisel mark on the reliefs. Three-dimensional mapping captures the precise geometry of a shaft before the first archaeologist begins their descent. Every movement, each breath, risks destabilizing ceilings of limestone that have held their silent vigil for millennia. The tomb is being recorded as carefully as it was built for a crucial reason. Once a surface is disturbed, its original message, pristine for 4,000 years, can never be fully recovered. And that message is subtle but relentless. This tomb does not glorify the gods with overt displays of piety. It does not lean on grand myths to justify its owner's power. Instead, it sanctifies administration. It presents the management of land, labor, animals, and goods as a sacred, almost priestly act. It suggests that order itself is divine, and that the mastery of a perfect system is the true path to eternity. The statues wait in the deep silence, positioned to receive offerings that may never come again. The reliefs record a world of absolute compliance without a hint of resistance. The shafts descend into a controlled darkness, guarding spaces that were never meant to be revisited. The mid-function. As archaeologists continue their slow, careful journey downward, each newly cleared meter of earth and debris raises the same quiet, insistent question. How deep does this design truly go? And what, or who, was placed at the final point where access was meant to stop forever? Here, the first glimpse inside is never the conclusion. It is merely an opening move in a game set 4,000 years ago. The real story lies below. It lies in shafts not yet fully descended, in chambers still locked in their original silent darkness. It lies in the decisions made by a powerful mind, long since turned to dust, about who has the right to control eternity, and just how far that control was truly meant to reach. The desert has not finished revealing all that was built in its depths. The tomb has not finished speaking. From beneath the sands of Saqqara, a newly opened chamber is a stark reminder that even after 4,400 years, Egypt is a land of doors yet to be opened, of shafts and silent rooms holding clues left for the living to find. But the ingenuity of hewn stone is not the only human epic hiding in plain sight. We shift our gaze from the ancient dust of Africa to the living, breathing heart of another continent. Here, a single satellite scan, a dispassionate eye in orbit, exposed a profound misunderstanding that had persisted for centuries. It revealed that the great Amazonian rainforest was never empty. It was never a pristine, untouched wilderness. Beneath a canopy so dense it creates its own weather, a lost world of perfect geometry lay hidden. Vast circles, immaculate squares, and long, straight corridors were found carved directly into the earth. In the Acre region of Brazil alone, archaeologists have now documented more than 450 of these massive geoglyphs, some stretching over 300 meters in diameter. These are shapes that whisper of a higher perspective, of a mind's eye that could see the world from above. They only resolve into coherent forms from the air, forcing an immediate, staggering conclusion. The people who built them understood large-scale planning, geometry, and communal coordination long before the existence of modern mapping. This number, 450, changes everything. To build a single one of these earthworks required thousands of hours of organized labor. It demanded precise surveying in a landscape of bewildering complexity and constant, long-term maintenance against the relentless hunger of the jungle. The engineering is monumental. Trenches at some sites were excavated more than 10 meters wide and plunged several meters deep, with the displaced earth used to create raised embankments engineered with such skill that they have held their form for centuries. These were not the isolated follies of scattered tribes. A network of raised roads links many of the structures, suggesting a civilization capable of regional planning, of a shared vision written upon the very surface of the world. The surprise deepens when water enters the picture. Across the Bolivian Amazon, in the seasonal floodplains of the Llanos de Mojos, researchers have mapped an enormous system of raised fields, canals, causeways, and artificial mounds. This was not merely construction, it was a form of ecological alchemy, designed to not only survive, but thrive amidst extreme seasonal flooding. Entire communities were built on platforms lifted above the waterlogged ground. Crops were planted on elevated fields that drained efficiently, while retaining moisture through the drinding land vanished beneath the annual deluge. This was landscape-scale engineering, a technology built to work in partnership with the planet's cycles, not in opposition to them. We are only seeing this now because our own technology has finally caught up. LiDAR scanning, a method that uses laser light to digitally strip away the dense vegetation, has revealed what was utterly invisible from the ground. What once appeared to be virgin wilderness resolved into an intricate tapestry of plazas, roads, and neighborhoods, all laid out with deliberate spacing and orientation. Population estimates, once conservative, have jumped dramatically. Regions once thought capable of supporting only small nomadic groups may have housed tens of thousands of people at their peak, organized into complex societies that rose, flourished, and then vanished, leaving behind a world so thoroughly reclaimed by nature that we mistook their garden for a wilderness. The discovery tells us less about them and more about ourselves. It reveals our own assumptions of what civil sit to predit a green desert. But it was a library, and its books were written in the language of the earth itself. The maps are not empty. We have simply been looking with our eyes closed. For centuries, the Amazon was perceived not as a cradle of civilization, but as its antithesis, a vast, unpeopled Eden, a green desert hostile to human ambition. But as the forest canopy was peeled back, first by satellite imagery and then by deforestation's relentless blade, a new picture began to emerge. Geometric patterns, immense squares and circles, were discovered etched into the earth, ghosts on a landscape once believed to hold no history. For a time, archaeologists saw these as isolated ceremonial sites, scattered across immense, untamed territories. Then came the realization that the soil itself was the key, the most enduring part of the system. This is Amazonian dark earth, known to science as Terra Preta. It is not a natural phenomenon. It is a human creation, an artifact of profound ecological knowledge. Ancient peoples manufactured it by meticulously mixing charcoal from low-intensity fires, organic waste, ash, and shards of pottery into the notoriously nutrient-poor tropical soil. The result was not merely an improvement, but a transformation. They created a self-renewing agricultural medium, a living soil teeming with microbial life that remains fertile not for decades or centuries, but for thousands of years. To this day, modern farmers seek out these patches of ancient earth, prizing them above all other land. This was not an accident. It was a science, requiring a mastery of controlled burning, a deep chemical understanding of biomass, and the foresight of long-term, generational planning, a library of knowledge refined through millennia of experimentation, passed down not in texts, but in practice. When pieced together, the pattern becomes undeniable. The geometry carved into the land, the agriculture raised on earthen platforms above the seasonal floods, the very soils redesigned for permanence. These are not the hallmarks of transient hunter-gatherer settlements. They point toward complex, sedentary societies that expected to remain, to invest, and to pass their world, improved, to their descendants. The forest itself now appears less a wilderness and more a constructed environment. Researchers have documented unnatural concentrations of useful trees, ancient food forests and orchards disguised by time. Edible plants are found clustered along ancient travel routes, a living map of sustenance. Rivers were modified with sophisticated fish weirs and corrals, immense structures of interwoven branches designed to turn seasonal abundance into a reliable, year-round food supply. What later explorers described as untouched primeval nature was, in reality, a managed ecosystem, a landscape shaped by human decisions over countless generations. The rainforest was not simply inhabited, it was engineered. Modern analysis has stunned specialists. Ancient roads, built without stone or asphalt, were designed to resist the region's torrential erosion. Intricate canal systems regulate sediment and water flow naturally, without dredges or pumps. The agricultural fields were designed to recover nutrients, not exhaust them, functioning as closed-loop systems. All of this was achieved without metal tools, without draft animals, without the wheel, engines, or written mathematics. The intelligence here was of a different order, embedded not in towering monuments, but in the practice and the landscape itself. It was a technology designed to blend in, to cooperate with nature, not to dominate the skyline. Why did this world vanish so completely from memory? The answer is a cataclysm. Disease, arriving with European contact, collapsed these populations with a speed and ferocity that is difficult to comprehend. The forest, always waiting, reclaimed the cities and the causeways. The survivors adapted by simplifying, dispersing, and avoiding the centers of contagion. Their vast engineering projects faded back into the earth, preserved precisely because they were made of soil and life, not stone. By the time outsiders began to systematically explore the interior, the complexity had gone quiet. Today, indigenous communities still live among these landscapes. They are not remnants of a lost world, but the descendants of its architects, carrying fragments of an ecological knowledge that modern science is only now beginning to recognize as a sophisticated discipline in its own right. The urgency is palpable. Deforestation, the great destroyer, is also the great revealer. Every clearing exposes new causeways, fields, and geoglyphs, even as the same heavy machinery erases them forever. Researchers are in a desperate race to document what remains before it vanishes. The shock is no longer that these advanced societies existed. It is how long they endured, and how closely their solutions resemble the very principles modern engineers now seek for sustainable agriculture, flood control, and resilient design. Perhaps the true lost world of the Amazon is not one of cities and gold, but one of forgotten wisdom, a different way of seeing and living within the world. Deep within the green labyrinth of the Amazon, the greatest structures were never meant to be seen. They were not pyramids of stone reaching for the sun, but vast, intricate earthworks designed to merge with the forest floor, to disappear back into the embrace of the wild. For centuries, they did just that, their existence dismissed as myth. When finally revealed by satellite imagery and deforestation, the scale of this forgotten engineering stunned the scientific world. Here were the ghosts of a complex civilization, possessing a knowledge of geometry and land management that no one believed possible in such profound isolation. But this is a story of the past, of a world that has vanished. Deeper in the jungle, another, more unsettling rumor persists. A story not of ancient ruins, but of a living echo from a different age. Researchers speak of encounters with a people so completely severed from the flow of time they seem to be a window into humanity's distant dawn. They are a stark reminder that the Amazon's deepest secrets are not buried under the soil, but are walking, breathing, and watching from the shadows. In this world, the true apex predator is not the jaguar or the anaconda. The most dangerous animal has always been man. It is this fundamental truth that has shaped the history of the forest's most elusive inhabitants, driving them into a state of near total seclusion. And yet, to find the absolute masters of isolation, we must leave the Amazon entirely. We must travel halfway across the world to a place that exists as a mere speck in the vastness of the Bay of Bengal. Here, nestled between India and Myanmar, lies an island that serves as the last bastion against the modern world. This is North Sentinel Island, home to a people who have made a conscious and violent choice to remain alone. The island itself is a natural fortress. Spanning nearly 60 square kilometers, an area roughly the size of Manhattan, it is wrapped in an emerald canopy so dense it swallows the sun, hiding its interior from the prying eyes of aircraft and satellites. But its primary defense lies at its edge. A serrated crown of treacherous coral reefs encircles the coastline, a natural barrier capable of tearing the hull from any approaching vessel. These reefs have guarded the island for millennia, ensuring that any contact is on the inhabitants' terms. And their terms have always been unambiguous. Stay away. The people who call this island home, the Sentinelese, are one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. They are a living enigma, a human society that has existed in near complete isolation for what is estimated to be 60,000 years. They are a direct, unbroken chain of human existence stretching back to the first migrations out of Africa. They have never developed agriculture, never smelted metal. They are a hunter-gatherer society, living in a state of self-sufficiency that modern humanity can barely comprehend. They have rejected every attempt at contact, meeting boats, helicopters, and even shipwrecked sailors with a volley of arrows. Their fierce independence is not born of ignorance, but of experience. Their hostility is a learned response, a shield forged over centuries of defending their world from outsiders. The waters around their island are pristine, teeming with the marine life that sustains them. The forest, flat and sprawling, with its highest point reaching a mere 122 meters, provides everything else they need. They have no concept of our world, of our technology, our nations, or our diseases. To them, we are the aliens, the invaders from beyond the horizon. To call them a tribe that never evolved is to fundamentally misunderstand their story. Theirs is not a failure to progress, but a profound success in preservation. They have maintained a way of life that has sustained them for tens of thousands of years, while our own civilizations rise and fall in the blink of a geological eye. They represent a branch of the human story that chose a different path, one that did not lead to cities, empires, or digital connection, but to a perfect, sustainable equilibrium with their environment. They remain a question mark etched onto the map of the modern world, a living testament to the fact that our way is not the only way. They force us to confront a difficult paradox. Our desire to know, to understand, is the very thing that could destroy them. In their determined isolation, the Sentinelese hold up a mirror to our own relentless expansion, asking a silent yet profound question. What does it truly mean to be civilized? And what have we lost in our insatiable quest for connection? On a remote island, shrouded in the Andaman Sea, lives a people who remain one of humanity's greatest enigmas. To count the Sentinelese is to attempt to measure a shadow. Every effort by the outside world to make contact, to simply ascertain their number, has been met with a fierce and unyielding defense of their sovereignty. From the shore, they emerge as fleeting figures, guardians of a world untouched. From the air, they are but specks in a dense jungle canopy. The best estimates, gleaned from these perilous and distant observations, place their population somewhere between 50 and 200 individuals. This vast uncertainty is not a failure of census, but a testament to their will. They exist beyond our data, a fragile, defiant flicker of a life that has rejected the modern age, reminding us that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but simply to be respected.